The FNRad Snowboard Podcast is presented by Vans. Season 8 of FNRad is sponsored by Wired Snowboards, Anon Optics, The Boardroom Snowboard Shop, FindAnEpicAgent.com, and Tribute Board Shop in Nelson, BC. Anon Optics makes goggles for all kinds of faces and all kinds of styles and colors. I've ridden several Anon goggle models, and I got myself an amazing fitting Anon helmet at the Holy Bowly event last spring. My favorite Anon feature is the simplicity of the quick change magnetic lens system, because I ride in a lot of changing light conditions, and the ability to change lenses on the fly guarantees that I'm always riding with the best possible visibility. Magnetic face mask integration provides seamless face mask attachment, and full perimeter vents maintain consistent airflow for fog-free clarity. Find Anon at your local snowboard shop. Also, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, follow, and share FNRad so we can build our following and make more great content. Hit pause right now, tell someone who should know about the show. Thanks. Support also comes from Dakine, Grouse Mountain, Mount Seymour, Pro Standard GoPro accessories, and Volcom Outerwear. Before I start the Jeremy Jones episode, I want to give a special thank you to Jones Snowboards, Protect Our Winters, Teton Gravity Research, and Yeti. Please check out these amazing companies doing FNRad things. Jeremy Jones is one of the most recognized names in snowboarding. His namesake company, Jones Snowboards, is turning 13 this season. Jeremy's dedication to backcountry snowboarding has given us the Higher, Deeper, Further series of films, which you can buy at tetongravity.com, by the way, along with The Life of Glide and countless other snowboarding gems over his 3-decade pro career. He's an active founder of the Protect Our Winters organization that helps passionate outdoor people protect the places and lifestyles they love from climate change, and he's a family man. My buddy Gentle Brad spotted Jeremy while we were riding at Mount Hood this summer. Jeremy invited us to take a lap with him, which was a true bucket list item for me, and then I invited him to join me for a quick chat at the Timberline Lodge for FNRad. Here's that interview with Jeremy Jones.
I first started coming here when I was 16, and we would camp and kind of hike up to avoid tickets, and and just full dirt bag. I think it was, I had $31 when I came here.
Oh, my God.
Which back then went a lot further.
Yeah.
But it's all peanut butter jellies and quesadillas. But to come back here with my kids super into snowboarding, and then when I started Jones, I started coming back to Hood, and I was like, man, this place is so fun. And there's probably a 20-year gap between those two things.
Leaves a real impression, though, hey? When I came back here after, I think I came in 91, back in 95. And then in 95, we came down 2 years in a row, and then a big, long break. And when I came back, I was like, oh, my God, the lake is here, the mountain is here, the snow is here, the lodge is here. And like
the forest, the forest is incredible.
Oh.
The vibe,
Yeah.
It's so great. Really happy to have it back in my life again on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and you're coming up with the family in the summers?
Yeah, it's a yearly trip, and it's something that I really look forward to.
Board testing, anything like that? You do anything?
Yeah, it's always it's an opportunity, kind of a last go on testing products, and so that's been, there's always stuff in the works. We're always working on stuff, so it falls at a good time from a design cycle.
Yeah, and they've always been really snowboard friendly here. There's a lot of good terrain, and even those turns you were doing down from the top of Palmer, like, you get going fast.
Oh, it's I think it's 2,400 vertical feet, and it's just really good riding for any anywhere, any time of year. It's not like it's good summer riding. It's really
Right.
good snowboarding.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? That's epic. And this year they've really stepped up the public park. We could talk a little bit about the fact that the camps have had a monopoly on, the epic terrain that they build for camp for 30 years. And I don't know when they opened it to the public that you can pay to ride. So it's switched. Now the camps rent the time from the mountain. The mountain controls the entire build, which, I mean, I think it's better. It only took me a second to be like, wait, I don't have to pay to go to camp.
Yeah, and it's funny. The camps have changed. If you just do the math on it, it's still expensive. Lift tickets are expensive to get into the park, but you compare that to a camp, and it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, you can bring your vehicle, and I mean, obviously you have camping gear for the family.
Yeah.
So the last time we talked, I didn't put that episode out. Actually, it had some glitches in the audio, and also I called you kind of in a panic. I was like, dude, there's this like heat bubble, and the world's on fire.
Oh, you're talking,
And we did it over the phone, and
right.
I like, even in listening to it, I could hear how frustrated you were in that moment.
Right.
And I mean, here we are up on snow.
Yeah.
And obviously you're a little bit more relaxed.
It's good medicine up here.
It's just epic. And if more people are exposed to this kind of outdoor stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, as a country, United States was doing this so long ago.
Yeah.
FDR opened this thing, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is a historic building we're next to at a really exciting time in the country where they prioritize getting people outdoors, and I'd say we've had this big increase from COVID, which at times can be frustrating, but it's in these towns it's become such a big economic driver, and we just got to accept people are coming. They want to get in our national forest. Let's not give them tickets when they're parked on the side of the road. Let's open up infrastructure so they can get out there. We're seeing more money being allocated for trails and the benefits of good trails on a community. And so it's like at Protect Our Winters, we call it the outdoor state. And we're that's a powerful community. The people that are coming to these towns to embrace this clean air, clean water, and all the things that are around it.
It was not what I expected to have happen from COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, in COVID, at the beginning, it sounded like we're going to be locked in our houses, afraid of each other, pitchforks and torches and masks, and just panic. And then next thing you know, they let the lifts run where we were, and lift lines were longer than they've ever been. But it's a double-edged sword. It's like, well, when it's great to be up there when there's nobody there,
right?
But then you can see a few weeks of nobody being there a year, and they shorten the season. Then they shorten the season the next year, right? We watched it happen, and now they're lengthening seasons again. Pass prices are going up. It's like it's a healthy economy, which, like you say, leads to longevity of the place. I want those places to be operating when I'm a grandfather or great grandfather, whatever. I want to bring my kids there, but in order for that to happen, they need to have the revenue to do it. Plus, obviously, like Protect Our Winters is pointing out, you need the snow.
Well, you definitely need the snow. And but yeah, that COVID, it was really cool because I remember there was a public safety announcement from the governor of California that said, get outside, it's good for you.
Nice.
We're going to keep resorts open. It's important for your mind and body and spirit, and to quantify and say how important, which we know, I'm sure you go long, there's certain times in your life where you can't get outdoors, and then you get outdoors and you're like, oh my God, it's a bong hit of life. And to have that is, we've known it's powerful stuff, and now the medical community is is telling us it's powerful.
Yeah,
stuff.
we're hearing a lot more of that now. It's great. Yeah, and there was, cease of planes flying over everywhere. There just was a general the earth took a breath.
Yeah, it was a nice breath.
which was dope. So you're still snowboarding quite a bit, obviously, if you're getting a couple weeks of riding here in the summer. And how did the season go in Tahoe this year? Went right to the end,
it started in got on snow in October with this 5 feet of snow in 4 days, for 48 hours. Then we went heat wave back to riding our bikes again. And another a monster 17 feet in December, and then 7 weeks with no snow.
Yeah.
So it was, and then we had a great kind of mid-April through May was really good. So
Solid.
It felt like 3 winters, and definitely getting on snow as much as I've ever been, for sure in the. Well over 100 days a year, and
that's pretty good for a company owner because there's just a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts.
Well, I jokingly say our product is really well tested, and my wife would roll her eyes if she was here. Always testing.
Yeah.
Tough
Totally.
job. Someone's got to do it.
Love it so much. So, what was the first training camp you did up here? Did you came as a dirtball in 90?
It was 90. It would have been 91, 92. So similar when you were here.
Yeah.
I said, said you rode the lift with Mike Jacoby. I'm sure I was on the mountain that day.
Yeah.
With Jacoby, because I had the opportunity at a young age to train with him through Cross M. So spent a month up here, and it was really funny. There was a campground on the way to Mount Hood, and we slept on just over the fence of the campground because we couldn't pay for the campground, but we'd use the bathroom. And Mark Fawcett lived down in Hood River. He'd drop us off on the way down, and he'd pick us up in the morning. And
no way.
And that was just it was my cousin and I, Adam Hostetter, and we were drafting off the Cross M team and around some of the best riders in the world. And it was that time was it was hard to really fun, but just the getting up super early, struggling with lift tickets, having to hike the lower mountain to get up at times, but it's kind of cool to come back, and it's like I'm getting on the mountain from 9 to 3, not 7 to 11 or whatever it was. And it's kind of changed my memories of the place, because those were hard times. Just kind of 5th class dirt bagging, and we had a ball, but yeah, it's just a different vibe up here riding soft slushy corn opposed to that early morning bulletproof kind of like sandpaper ice.
Yeah, in 6-day-old wet boots that you just can't get dry because you're living in a rainforest.
Yeah.
Right? And
totally.
Sometimes it's raining down below, and then you get up above the clouds.
Yeah.
And here you are in the bright sun. It's rad, but you're everything is wet.
Totally.
And nothing back then was Gore-Tex. So it's all just disgusting wet stuff. That Cross Am team, I remember the logo being so much because I wasn't a racer.
Yeah.
I was I wish that logo was for something freestyle.
Such a cool logo.
It was a great logo, right? Yeah. What happened with that team? That was Jerry Masterpool. He puts it together.
Yeah.
Is he essentially the first North American racing coach?
So, interesting enough, I think he is the first ever official snowboard coach. And so I was 89, 90-ish. I went to the U.S. Open. So it wasn't my first Open. So it was probably 90. My first Open was 89.
Oh, wow.
And I'm there, and I'm seeing that rad logo. It's a cross with an M underneath it. Pretty, punk rocky. And he was the coach for the Burton A team. And it ended up that only lasted a year, and he was coaching half pipe and race. He'd never been on a snowboard, but he was bringing structure to it, and then with his, he understood the art of the turn, and then he broke away from that, and Mark Fawcett ended up training with him, and then I got to run some gates with him. He gave me some pointers that, like, at that point I just got on my race board and was like, let it rip. And he's like, you know, you got to be patient, strong initiation, all this stuff that I hadn't thought, and like immediately it was clicking, and I'm like, oh my God, that never thought of that. Makes total sense. And a year later I started like, I came out to Hood, trained with him for a couple weeks, and then by I think 17 I was on the Pro Tour and traveling with the Cross M team.
Yeah.
Which Jacoby was on it, Jason Ford was on it.
Oh, sick.
Tara Eberhard, who ended up marrying Jerry, she was like this phenomenal female racer, and so it was some of the best riders in the world, and to be around them on the daily was really helpful, to say the least.
Yeah, I think I said it in our other interview. I remember Jerry rubbing people's legs. It would be in like movies when they would still throw like racing in the movies. Yeah. See Jerry at the top, giving rubbing
our legs in our speed suits, getting us warmed up. And he brought a ton of discipline to my world, which was important, because I was off on the Pro Tour at 16, and very, you know, zero parent supervision, and so kind of through 16 to 23 it was dictated around that, and that was kind of my college.
You were still competing half pipe too, right? You had some pretty good.
Yeah, so I competed half pipe when I first started competing. It was all about the overall titles. Like Fred Kelly was the overall champ, and so he'd race and he'd do half pipe, and now everyone wanted to do that, and so I could get top 3 in it. I mean, we're talking regional New England Cup days in a half pipe comp. Nice. But consistently won races. Did my first pro comp at 16 at Snow Summit. Got third in the race. Made $900. Paid $150 to do the half pipe. Got like 40th, and I'm like, that's not a good return on the investment. And I'm like, I can't afford to do that. And it was, I was clearly a better, definitively better racer,
a more
than a
advanced race, right? Because people got obsessed with half pipe, and like we were talking about on the chair, the exponential growth from year to year to year, like being world champion in '85, right? Like a Terry Kidwell era world champion, you know, an '87 just 2 years later, is a completely different thing.
Yeah, and like Todd Richards, I remember, he was one of the first guys that was like, I'm just doing half pipe. Yeah. And then it became, you know, and then he went out west, started doing well, and he was kind of the first New England Cup dirtbag that like really made it. He went out west and like to these pro comps and started winning, and we're like, oh my God, Richards is going off. And then that really opened everyone's eyes. So anyone that was like, mostly, because you'd get these riders that were like really good racers and could hang in a half pipe, and then you get half pipe riders that could hang on a race course, and the half pipe riders are like, I'm done with racing.
Yeah, that it would have happened from the other side too, right? The
Totally.
Racers would have been like, I've got no, well, you just said it, so you're the other side of it.
I was the other side.
Which is crazy the whole way through your free riding too, right? I remember you were taking Alaska trips with your brothers.
Yeah, that was started at 19, and free riding is from the day one on a snowboard, like riding in Vermont, was like, we always looking for the misty little gladed tree zones, and it was all about powder, top to bottom snowboarding, good turns, side hits, This was pre terrain parks, and then so that's always, I mean, I think that's what really drew me into snowboarding, was that just top to bottom riding. And then it was, racing was really a kind of a key to getting able to make some money and see the world. But as I got to see the world, it was like, oh my God, now I'm in Val d'Isere, and I remember waking up there in the morning and like, are you kidding me? And then trying to focus on racing and looking at POW right off the side of the run and like, let's get this race done so we can get our free ride kit together.
Yeah. And notoriously, there's some people that just, they were all about the contest, didn't care. And then, anyone that didn't care, you kind of like wrote them off as a snowboarder. You're like, dude, seriously, come on, Jimmy Scott, like go free ride, right? Like,
yeah, whether it's half pipe or that. And I remember Jerry Masterpool, he would get so mad at us because he'd be like, okay, we've been grinding hard. You guys get 3 days off. And we're like, sweet, we're driving through the night. It snowed in the Tetons. We're like pulling into Jackson Tram for 3 days of riding, and then driving back through the night and showing back up just so smoked from it's like, that is not what you're supposed to do on these days off.
Where you just aren't doing any snowboarding. How crazy is that? That's
so
amazing.
At that time, where I say I'm definitely not riding more than ever, because at that time I was doing like 230, 240 days a year.
That just doesn't even make sense to me.
It was just 0 days off, because as soon as if it was had a break from racing, it was straight to free riding. It was drive through the night. It was just like go.
Blaze was talking yesterday about, he's an open to close rider. That's just the way he is. There's no lunch. There's no lunch, right? Like you don't even bring a lunch. Yeah, he's coaching adults, right, with High Cascade, and he was talking last night. And I could just see it. It's because if you are a snowboarder and you bit the bullet, you bought the $100 lift ticket, right? You go in for lunch, it takes you 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then you come out and you're spent. You're totally done.
It's so funny. I have a Sans bar in my bag. No lunch for me either. And I mean, Blaze is a great example of, you don't get to be that good by just rolling around only on the sunny, perfect day, only riding for a couple hours. It's like, you need your 10,000 hours just to like get in the door.
Yes.
And so it's like Sammy Carlson, the skier, he's a good friend of mine, and he's out here all day just like honing tricks, even though he's now like a all mountain skier, and he makes a point to come in and like put his time in here, and so you see that commitment, and the only way you can have that amount of commitment is if you have this deep love and also a ton of creativity, because how can you it's like going out, bulletproof ice, cold, it's like, kids, huge opportunity. This is the best ice we've had in Tahoe in like 5 years. Like, we gotta go, like we gotta get out there.
Wow. Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, I can do all conditions except when it freezing rains on top of powder. So like if you've got a breakable crust that will just destroy you, that's a write-off. I don't have a tool.
We call that's like, a very unique conditions.
Yeah. I mean, only once since 1999, I think, for me, have I gone up and thought, oh, this looks pretty good, and then just
death crust.
Yep, and then you're just back home, and then wait for the reset. In Vancouver, it could be the next day, it could be by that night. Yeah. Come back up at night, it's rained, everything's mushed out. Yeah, it's an obsession is what it is, right? Like, so,
a healthy obsession, mostly. I think.
Well, I tried to say to Blaze last night, it's like an addiction. He goes, that's got a negative connotation.
Right.
Even obsession does too. But it's something you think about when you're not there. Like, and on the way up, like, I'm going to do this 360 today that I haven't done.
Right.
Like, I'm going to grab my tail. It's going to be so good. You just like, on the way up, you're thinking about it. On the way down, you're like, jeez, I should have gone one more time. Should have hiked it,
Yeah.
And as a shop rider, like someone who worked in a shop, rode for a shop a little bit, I went through like 8 generations of hungry kids. Because hungry kids come, they go night riding with you 5 days a week or whatever, and then they're like, I got to go to college or whatever, right? Like then they split and do something else. But for me, it's just been constant the whole way through. Like, so you got to change the crew. It's like, all right, well,
tell me about it. Went from, I laugh because there's these different phases of snowboarding. You got the Grom, and then you're kind of like the young, like up and comer, like maybe coming onto the scene with new energy.
Yep.
That's a couple years, and then you get to be like, if you're lucky, like I'm just a pro. I'm like between 22 and 28, and then by 28 you're kind of like, whoa, you're like older pro. We'll see how they do. Then you're veteran, and veteran phase is pretty long, and then now I'm like into this new phase, which is kind of like legend, icon, whatever. But if you can get to that phase, that can be a really long phase.
Oh, that could, the rest of your life. Yeah.
Or mentor, you don't have to be pro to be in that phase.
Well, look you have a lot of options. If you're looking at surfing, like Rabbit Kakai was surfing Honolulu, like Waikiki Beach, into his 90s, I believe.
Yeah.
And he wasn't teaching anyone. He just was existing.
Right.
He was just, the fact that he was there was good for surfing, surfers, humanity, nature, for everything. You'd see him out there surfing way out, and you'd be like, who's that wicked old guy over there that's rips? They're like, that's like the most legendary surfer, one of the most legendary surfers to do it. And there's space in that for, I was talking about it with Blaze too. It's kind of up to you, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, when you've got sponsors kind of telling you what to do and like, hey, we're making the money and this is where we need you to go, and then it falls off, the responsibility falls on you. And a lot of pros, what they do right then is quit. They go, oh, fuck these guys. And then a bit of a depression and screw snowboarding. And then my favorite is the end of that, where they come back.
Totally.
And then they're on snow again. And
on their own terms. And then it gets like
terms.
Super pure.
Yes.
Again. And
yes. And they still rip. That's the thing, is that I've never ridden with someone that I didn't see what it was that made them pro.
Definitely.
Not ever.
I saw Blaze out here last year just ripping. And
he showed me footage of a Switch 7, a Cab 7 on the big jump there.
Yeah.
Like from 2 days ago. He's 47.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's epic. It's epic. But yeah, that's been my favorite thing, because for me the show was my imagination in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it did start snowballing, where I had these opportunities to speak with people that I've looked up to for 30 years, Yeah,
that's really cool to be able to have conversation with all those people.
And for me, there's nothing better than seeing them snowboard, taking a few turns with you today, and trying to follow your turns on a freestyle board, and then just going, all right, well, that ain't happening. He still got it. That's sick. That is definitely one of the most fun things. The other thing is just the love of snowboarding, meeting kids.
That's the root of it, right?
Chad Otterstrom.
Yeah, Chad. I love Chad. You see it in his eyes. And you know it. And then I think that a super tricky thing is just health, because the reality is, you're riding really hard for a long time. Your body gets beaten down, and then snowboarding is painful, and that's the trick. If you can somehow make it where snowboarding is not painful, because that's usually what ends a career, is pain.
Yes.
But you got to stay pretty disciplined to be able to do it, and be creative to be able to kind of get to a point where you can go snowboard and not be in pain.
Yeah. There's one genre of pro snowboarder that's almost the most difficult to be, which is like a street, because those things that you're doing are so consequential. And when you move back to just free riding, for some of those people, I've seen the challenge of like being a street hero, and people seeing you in the park and go like, oh, hey, why don't you front board this, whatever, you know what I mean? And they're like, well, it's embarrassing for me to be up here. I'm not on my game right now, and I don't want conk my head or whatever.
Right.
And I'm going, for some people, it's like, look, just you being out there enjoying it is enough. Like, you don't have to risk your life. I remember Peter Line saying that he wouldn't come to a contest in Vancouver just because the prize money was 10 grand, because he's like, any kook can beat me. Like, it's a contest, it's a big air contest. Some kid out of nowhere pulls off some fluky trick, and because he's like, because that's what I'm doing. I just put my best foot forward, I try my hardest trick, and if I land it, I win.
Right.
But it's not guaranteed I'm going to win, right? So, yeah, like, I think the hardest pro to be is someone that really shot to the top and was known for being at that super edge of the freestyle progression, because that next generation, they had you as an example. They didn't have to use their imagination.
Right. Yeah, it's
to get to that.
I mean,
level.
what I'm like so grateful for with my snowboarding now is the ingredients for me to have an incredible day on the mountain have never been so simple, and splitboarding's been amazing for that. Certain designs can spice up your run.
Oh, totally.
Spice up your
boards
home
are sick.
mountain.
Yeah.
So it's wild to, just snowboarding has just become it's a really fun space for me right now, where I'm such a cheap drunk out there, and like the ease of me to get joy in the mountains is so simple these days. And it's sad when, I mean, we all have friends that are like, maybe it's snowed and it's like, it's kind of, maybe it's dust on crust, and like, I can feel the bottom, I'm out of here. I'm like, dude, I don't know, man, it's a pretty good day.
That's what I was kind of ranting about before, is that, like, if you're UC Oxenden and you're known for doing 100-foot jumps, then your sponsors or people that want to see you are like, we could build you a 100-foot jump here. Right. Whereas you made such a good decision.
Yeah, there he is making little surf turns. Cool,
like,
brah.
Hey, we'll send you somewhere exotic in the world, and you turn
make
down
a pretty
it.
turn. I mean, benefit.
Hell yeah, I'll take that, because you can do that indefinitely.
Right.
UC there's a half-life for hitting a 100-foot jump.
Yeah, I find it. I listened to a podcast with Jeremy Jones, and I've gotten to be friends with JP Walker, and they seem to have this similar, like, crazy commitment, which is why they got to be so good. But they're like what JP calls loyal to the steel, which I totally commend, and I'm so impressed. And the guy's so fit.
Yes.
But it's like, dude, that's just diminishing returns, and like one more video part, and they still want to be able to go to the rail garden and like throw down, and the reality is like your body, like, that gets harder and harder and hurts more and more, and there's just no way around that.
And you're stacking PTSD from times that you wrapped yourself around a rail.
It was kind of it was admirable. You see why they are so good, but it's also a little bit like, God, it would be cool if you could find joy in like snow skating Timberline or something. I don't know what it is like. And not to say, mind you, I've had the pleasure to snowboard with JP, and it's nothing but stoke. So there's zero bitterness or anything, but it's there's a level of and they will take it further than anyone. And I think Terrier and Richards and stuff, they have like the McTwist challenge going on.
Cool.
See how old they can do McTwist.
Yes.
And I think
I've
that's
heard them both talk about it. Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible to watch. But on the flip side, here I am. I'm up at Boreal at night boarding on a snow skate, just like so amped, and I'm like, this is kind of weird that I'm having this much fun on the white ribbon of death, but so be it. Grateful.
Well, Craig was the one who really set the pace for it, he didn't take that. I don't know much about him personally, but I don't think that decision to leave competition was precedented. Like, he wasn't following in somebody's, hey, and then they retire,
No, totally.
and they go and they do the more soulful thing. He was like, look, free riding is super important. It's important to the sport. It's important to competitors to not take themselves so seriously. And by all accounts, he did take himself very seriously when he was competing.
And with his free riding, I had an opportunity to spend a week with him, and it was like every day, like, we got to get up earlier. Like, we need to be on top of the mountain when the sun comes up. And he's like, we're 5 minutes late, get up earlier. And
wow.
And such commitment to it. And there was an incredible quote of Craig's, and I'll butcher it, but it was something along the lines of, I'm most intrigued with that everyday rider that's getting like pure joy out of snowboarding, and like those are the people that I'm studying right now.
That's so sick. And so Craig, he became so zen.
Yeah.
He was so young when he passed, but we've thought about it on Mike before. What would it be like had he, stayed here and lived to now? Like, what would snowboarding? How would snowboarding be different?
And I think I got asked that question at his 10 years after he passed away by Backcountry Magazine, and it was something I hadn't thought about. And at that point, Jones is a year or two older, deeper, I think, had been shot, and I was like, wow, splitboarding would have been way further along.
Yes,
no question.
That's true. Absolutely. Yeah, and there's just, you just don't know.
It was idea. Like we lost our compass. And I think that we kind of were like that teenager, like kind of chasing squirrels and stuff. And like Craig had such a pure compass, and where he'd taken his snowboarding, I think it would have, we would have been further along with splitboard technology, but we won't know.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely, we're seeing it now, the divide between the current generation of snowboarders and the guys like us that actually had to, work to get on resorts sometimes, right? Or work for acceptance within a community of snow enthusiasts that just kind of didn't want us there. Whereas the kids now are just so, they've got coaches, they've got goals, they want to be a Red Bull athlete, or they want to go to the Olympics, or and they're working on tricks that I could never imagine working on. But there is a little bit of a lack of that guy that Craig's talking about, or girl that Craig's talking about, that is intrigued just about snowboarding. Like, that's just hooked because it's so much fun.
Like, I'm super tapped in with the Groms of today, just because my kids are really into snowboarding, so I get to see it firsthand. And what I call the Woodward generation.
Sure.
What they're doing in the air is phenomenal. Their comfort levels, but I'm here to report that the kids are all right.
Nice.
And we don't know who their like total mentors are, but they're out there, and they're really cool.
Yeah, I met Brock Crouch, I met Red Gerard.
Yeah.
And both those kids embody snowboarding as much as anyone I've ever met. Yeah.
So that's where my son was talking about Brock last night. He's like, looks like a rad kid, da-da-da-da. So like Brock is now like this kid that my son, who's 13, his generation's looking up to.
Rad.
And then like Brock, I don't know Brock, I've never met him, but
Dave Downing, his family is close with Dave Downing.
Yeah.
And Dave took him under his wing and kind of, pointed him in the right direction.
Like Brock I guarantee he's gonna be like doing amazing things. He brings cool vibe and style. He's gonna be making good turns. He makes good turns. Like, he'll be a great, there'll be people like Brock, people that I don't even know their names, that these 13-year-olds are like, wow, that guy's rad. And they embody the spirit of snowboarding.
Advocating for the sport, giving kids the kind of, well, that's the thing. In the generation that I talk to a lot, the most, there's a lot of talk about gatekeepers. You know what I mean? Like that, there were a lot of gatekeepers because pre Mike Rankwit and Chris Roach, you know, there was kook style in the contests, in the magazines. I mean, what magazine was I looking at? 2 issues in a row. No Graham on the cover.
Wow.
We're talking, you know, maybe ISM.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Like
interesting.
And so like snowboarding needed some gatekeepers. Skateboarding had a bunch.
Right.
And so then that kind of came over. And then sure, like, I don't know. You can basically be anything in snowboarding you want now. You can be a contest kid.
Yeah, and I think that's good. I mean, I'm fine with all of it. If there's grumpy people on the hill vibing kids, sure, dude, you probably needed to get yelled at. Or there's happy guys out there. I mean, I just watched this Connor 32 rider like talking to my son. He'd never met him before, and like helping him with a trick. Like, sick. So, you know, there's no edge there. He's not vibing. You know, like good. There's a lot of good vibes out there, but whatever. I mean, that's the beauty with snowboarding. There's a lot of roads to walk down right now, a lot of paths, and I think the variety is welcome. Yeah,
surfing got its start just that little bit further ahead, and there was some harsh localism that just it's perpetrated the whole way through till today, right? Like you can still get vibed out by locals.
Surfing there, the mountain. We can go and not. I mean, there's powder. You could, which I laugh at the people vibing people, but
me too.
What have you? But surfing, it's like you sit on one takeoff spot. There's only X amount of waves coming through. I mean, I love to surf, so it's there's just not. In snowboarding, it's like infinite amount of gravity when it's winter with snow on it.
Yes.
And surfing, there is not an infinite amount of waves.
That's what creates it. You're right, absolutely right. That that preciousness of having a spot and not having someone in your way.
Yeah, and it's like, I surfed yesterday, and it's southern hemisphere swell, which means it's like big lulls in between. It's 5 wave sets. Everyone's waiting for those 5 waves. Guy's never seen me in the lineup. He's like, he knows it inside. He's going to get one of those 5 waves, and he deserves to get one of those 5 waves.
Of course.
I'm in there picking up scraps.
Where did you surf?
Short sands.
Short sands. Sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it makes me smile to think of like, Jerry Lopez and Craig Kelly catching waves together out on the Oregon coast.
Definitely.
In the early 90s. And I mean, it's getting more busy with surfing. Obviously, it's getting more busy with surfing everywhere. It's getting more busy with snowboarding. But the technology's there too, and surfing's just a lifestyle. The idea of surfing is what got me into snowboarding. Snowboarding is like landlocked person's surfing for sure, especially up north.
Yeah, I mean, I snowboard like I wish I could surf, and that's like in my soul is like a surfer at heart. And
what was that short film about the turn?
Life of Glide.
Life of Glide with the with that one slow-mo turn before we had slow-mo on our cell phones. I think I've been trying to do something like that ever since. That essence of that one turn. It's so good.
That was a Tim Manning masterpiece. He filmed that stuff, and
it was a poem, right?
It was a poem. It was based off a poem I wrote.
That's why. Like it was something a little different, but something that really spoke to me from one snowboarder to another. I was like, this is
with that, I was in my hometown watching Hire in the back of outdoor at the base of KT, and it ends with me in the Himalaya on this in a really serious line, and I'm like, the next film is under the chairlift. Yeah, I'm like, I gotta like bring it right back to like right here, and so that film was shot under the chairlift or like right on the side of the road. Sick. At Donner. Mike Hatchett shot the powder stuff. Tim shot a bunch of the stuff. Oh, wow. It was funny. I was up at Donner with Mike Hatchett, and it's sunrise, just perfect I mean, you see, and there's like triple overhead sprays in that movie, and he's like, "Oh, dude, we're like, sun's coming." He's kind of like rushing. I'm like, "What's going on, dude?" He's like, "Well, like people are gonna start coming." I'm like, "Nobody's here, dude. Like, nobody comes to Donner to film anymore." And he's like, "Really?" It's like, "Back, dude, we used to like sleep, like be like camped out at sunrise on these airs and these spots to like beat Dogger's crew and Whitey and da 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 da." And I'm like, "Yeah, they're in a single. You're not gonna see a single crew today. It's just us."
Oh wow, that's rad to hear.
Yeah,
Blaze was talking about it, going to Donner.
Yeah.
Got to go to Donner to film. Yeah, we're going to Donner.
Oh, you got to go to Donner. Dude, hit me up when you go there.
Oh, we will for sure.
I'll walk you. You need the historic. You need like the Donner tour guide. Where like first McTwist, first this is the Palmer did like a 540 off a cliff right off the side of the road. I mean, it's all right. You can see most of it. Is that
where the Damien Steve Graham cliff is from Snowboarders in Exile?
I would assume so. It's
huge. It was just
deny nor confirm.
It was massive, massive. Oh my God, yeah, Donner's sick. I went up there and looked because Donner. What is the resort?
Well, you have Sugar Bowl, you have Donner Ski Ranch.
Yeah. I went all the way up to Sugar Bowl. I went to the Palisades at Sugar Bowl and was like, well, how the hell? I've been riding a family resort all day. I didn't realize if I just go to the left, there's like these gnarly Damian Sanders style, like epic takeoffs into like super steep landings, and then just a little forest, and you're back on a family hill. Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah,
it's fun up there. That's where for splitboarding, I bring my kids up there because it's like short hike with like you'll ride these 500 vertical foot runs with like 5 airs in it.
Unreal.
And that, opposed to like there's no approach, there's no nothing. It's
right.
These mini little runs that are just stacked with airs and chutes and
unreal. Where's the train? Where was that train?
The train shot is down. You go over I-80 and west, and that's a misty spot. And I don't know if anyone's jumped it since Hetzel, but
yeah, probably not. Did you ever see the skier that hit the train with Apocalypse Snow, whatever?
Oh wow.
Yeah. They were there with Regis Rowland, the guy.
Yeah,
he went super slow.
Whoa.
And he backflips it, and it's slow-mo, and it's film, and his tips just hit the thing, and he double ejects. It's epic.
Wow.
One of the best shots ever. Oh, man, Tahoe is just so vast. Yeah, and you've been showcasing the Sierras, in all their glory for so long. Did you see the Travis, Brian Iguchi, I forget who else went. They
the float down the river?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Tetons?
Wait, no, the one before that. They were maybe you were in it. Did you do it? Did you?
Well, we did this thing called Roadless. Yeah, that I was a part of.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the 3 of us.
Oh, sick. Yeah, I'm like, and there was one other guy.
One other old guy in there.
That just looked like
hippie turns.
It makes you want to go there. It makes you want to.
Yeah.
It makes you want to leave the crowded resort. Get your
that's
gear
the gift of splitboards. Is it's so like. With a teeny bit of creativity, you can go and get away from people and getting up early, and it's just I call it the wonderful problem. It's like you work really hard to maybe hit this line you've looked at and waited for conditions, and you stand on top of it, and you finally got it in good form, and you look behind it, and there's like 6 more. And so the list gets bigger, not shorter.
Absolutely. well, I think I was flying into Salt Lake City, and I noticed like that ridge pops up real fast there,
Yeah.
right? And then you look down it, and it's kind of cookie cutter, the same formations, like doop, doop, doop. And it looks like, I mean, unbelievable terrain. Just like, it feels like it's like 5 minutes out of the city.
Some of the best terrain is right above the city, and then it becomes an issue of can you get it, getting that low snow.
That's what we deal with in Vancouver. Is
Yeah.
that our local mountains are pretty low, and then Whistler Blackcomb is world class, and Baker's
Yeah.
world class. So yeah.
Oh, you're in a good place.
Yeah, I'm definitely not hurting for places to go. I'm embarrassed to say I don't split board. I mean, the listeners of the show know I'm.
You don't need to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Uphill, it's. I know plenty of people that are allergic to walking uphill. That's
one
all
of the
right.
things, man. Absolutely. But Fozzie and Shane from Tribute have invited me for a cabin run.
Nice.
And I got to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, who better to go
Yeah.
to Nelson with than those two?
Oh
And
yeah, I miss Fawcett.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, you probably got to get going. I think we did about an hour there.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been
That's
fucking
perfect, dude.
so much fun with Jeremey Jones here. Beautiful Mount Hood, Timberline Lodge. Thanks for doing the show, and thanks for everything you've done over the years for snowboarding, because I know you've worked really hard at it. It shows.
Well, right back at you. I love your love and passion for it, and
Thanks, man.
and appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, stoked. Right on. Sick, homie.
Cheers.
That's perfect. Thanks, Jeremy.
No worries.
FNRad shoutouts this week to Jeremey Jones for taking the time to talk to us. Thanks to his family for letting us borrow him for an hour or so. Special thanks to Jones Snowboards, Protect Our Winters, Teton Gravity Research, and Yeti. Be sure to come back next week for an interview with another amazing snowboarder on FNRad Snowboarding, presented by Vans and brought to you by SIA Productions.